The rise in AI search is inevitable. You're probably seeing this with your own behavior. I bet you use ChatGPT a lot more and Google a lot less than you used to. And we're now seeing this in traffic data. In this study published on Search Engine Land, AI discovery was up 527% year over year. According to Ahrefs, traffic from ChatGPT has grown 85% between January and June in 2025. We're seeing it across our clients too, with many seeing an increase in the amount of traffic they're getting from AI tools and a drop or a leveling off of traffic from organic search. So it's no surprise that AI search optimization, or getting your brand, products and services featured and recommended by these AI tools, is top of the marketing to-do list for 2026 and beyond. So today we're going to talk about 5 AI search optimization strategies that you can add to your digital marketing. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which ones your brand should be prioritizing. Now, before we start any of this, you've heard us say before, but the first thing we need to do is audit your brand's current visibility on these AI tools. That allows us to identify where the holes are, where the gaps are that we need to fill in. In this video, I'm going to be using SEMrush's AI SEO toolkit, and SEMrush has very kindly given us the AI SEO toolkit for free to use in this video. To be honest, it's the one I use anyway, even if SEMrush wasn't sponsoring this video, but there we go. So how do you audit your brand's visibility? First step, you stick in your URL up the top here. It gives you a visibility score. It gives you an indication of how many mentions, i.e. how many times your brand is being mentioned in AI answers across the different platforms. It gives you an indication of the number of sources. We're going to come back to that in a minute. And it also shows you some of the prompts that your brand is being seen and not seen. This is great to just get a very quick overview of where things stand. So let's compare a couple of different brands. Firstly, Cigna here. We can see 76 out of 100, pretty decent score, and we can see some of the prompt responses that Cigna's been recommended in. For example, dental insurance plans. We can see the full response here that was collected from Google, and we can see that Cigna here was being cited as a source. But let's take a look at Guardian Life, a brand that is not doing so well, with a visibility score of only 20 out of 100, implying obviously that they've got a bit of work to do. Now, we've got 684 brand mentions across all the different LLMs, and if we click on the opportunities tab, we see over 5,000 opportunities or prompts where Guardian Life is not being mentioned where they could be mentioned. This visibility overview is great for a quick overview, but if you want to get even more in-depth data, you really want to set up tracking. Now, what this gives you is much more granular data about how your brand is performing in AI search, and of course, it tracks it over time. Here we're looking at MetLife.com. You can see we've got these recommendations up at the top here, and these recommendations are going to be tailored to your brand. For example, MetLife.com could improve its visibility in Google's AI mode from an average of 3.47, so being recommended as between the third and the fourth source, to being above the second source if they included some summary metrics at the top of their content and schema. So what SEMrush's AI SEO toolkit is doing here is analyzing the performance of the top performing sites, looking at what they've got in common, and then making recommendations about how MetLife could close the gap on those sites. It even gives you specific recommendations for your brand, so suggesting to MetLife that it launches tiered modular bundles with HRIS integrations, publishing ROI by industry and admin time saved. So this might not make any sense to you because you don't work at MetLife, but when you put your brand into the SEMrush AI SEO toolkit, you're going to see some recommendations which maybe go beyond just straightforward marketing and actually go towards product development. And that's going to be a theme that you'll notice coming up over and over again as we go through these AI search optimization strategies. And that leads us nicely to AI search strategy 1, which is brand. Dominate on brand. AI search tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google Gemini, all love brands because brands are defined entities that these large language models can link to other concepts. So inside the SEMrush AI SEO toolkit, head over to the brand performance tab. We're going to stay looking at MetLife, for example. We can see the share of voice by different platforms here, and we can see how MetLife's visibility compares to some of their competitors down here. We can also see how they're doing on different platforms. For example, they're doing better on ChatGPT than they are on Google Gemini. We can then filter this brand performance report based on individual platforms if there are ones that we want to specifically target more. Now, for this example, let's just go over to ChatGPT and we can start to dig in where ChatGPT is seeing MetLife versus competitors. One of my favorite areas of this SEMrush AI SEO toolkit is the recommendations down at the bottom because they are so specific For example, if we wanted to improve perception of MetLife on ChatGPT and increase the number of mentions, we could do this by increasing the use of crisp metrics, outcomes, and digital proof points over platitudes. In other words, MetLife needs to get more specific in the marketing content that it publishes on its website. And actually, we see this recommendation coming up over and over again. Here we've got a recommendation that whilst it's a share of voice leader, so MetLife is being recommended most often, it's not always the first recommendation in any list, not least because it doesn't appear first in listicles and category leader answers. So in other words, when ChatGPT is pulling from a page which lists a bunch of options in this category, MetLife isn't often the first option, which means that it's not being recommended first in that ChatGPT answer. So as you can see, there are some really specific recommendations here about how you can improve your share of voice, i.e. how often your brand is mentioned, and how favorably it's mentioned as well. So strategy number 2 is talking about specific products or services, because as well as getting these AI search tools to recommend your brand, as we've just looked at with a MetLife example, we can also get them to talk about the specific products or services that your brand or company sells. Let's look at an example. Firstly, we're going to start with services and we're going to look at Freddie Mac. Now, for the sake of this example, we're going to imagine that Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are arch rivals. I know they bundle up different types of mortgages, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just imagine that they're head-to-head rivals. As the Freddie Mac marketing team is sat over their AI SEO toolkit, figuring out how to close the Fannie gap, they're going to be thinking about how do we get our services, not just our brand, mentioned more often. Freddie Mac actually has a really good platform here because, as we can see, there are signature programs that Freddie Mac runs. They use signature terminology. This can be a real advantage when you're optimizing for AI search because you can own specific concepts. But as we'll see, the definitions of some of the terms that are being used aren't clear enough, meaning they're becoming generic and used by the whole of the market rather than being attributed specifically to Freddie Mac. So how could you use this for your brand or company? Well, let's say that you're a nationwide plumbing company and you offer an emergency call-out service with some added extras. Maybe you could brand this as something very specific and include those definitions on your website, which would increase the chances that if these AI search tools are referencing emergency plumbing, they might mention your branded service specifically. Another way that you can increase the mentions of your service is with direct comparables. So comparing your service versus competitor services. AI search tools love this type of content because they don't actually know the difference between two different products and services. So they'll often run a background search, searching for example, Freddie Mae versus Fannie Mac. Then they'll pull information from the ranking content for those searches. So if you can get ranking for Freddie Mac versus Fannie Mae, and you can include clear descriptions about the comparables, that's a great way of giving these AI search tools the information that they need to recommend you to their users. This strategy also works for product-oriented businesses. Let's take a look at DeWalt, which makes construction tools. And this is one of those areas where, as we said, the AI search recommendations can actually go way beyond just digital marketing and more to product development strategy. For example, when we look at DeWalt against its competitors in Google's AI mode, we see that SEMrush is suggesting some areas for improvement, which include things like improving peak torque, sustained heavy load runtime, and battery longevity. So this is more than just, hey, create this content. This is, here are the areas of your product that you might need to develop further. It's even recommending specific tools that need to be updated because they're being left behind in shootouts. The great news about this new era of AI search optimization is that if you have a genuinely superior product, even if it's not superior in every different criteria, you can do really well here, but you need to be very clear about where your product is better than competitors. The AI SEO toolkit will even suggest the criteria to track and provide evidence for on your products in order to help them win in search results. Okay, the third strategy is first-party citations, targeting increasing your website's visibility in these AI answers. If you can do that, you increase the chances that they will use your content and therefore recommend your product or service as well as driving more traffic to your website. Let's look at an example in the world of mortgages with better.com. Generally speaking, these AI search tools value the same authority as regular web search because they are often using regular web search engines in the background to find the right articles. The type of content that they like to publish typically has some sort of first-party experience or data. If it's just generic information that you're publishing on your website, these tools can make that stuff up themselves. What they really need is data and facts to back up what they're saying, as well as expert first-party opinions from people who know what they're talking about to back up any high-stakes recommendations that these tools are making to their users. Better.com has this fantastic learning center where it does provide a lot of information about different topics within mortgages, and it does give its own recommendations and specific advice. For example, here's an article on your timeline for the home buying process. Strictly speaking, they could do a little bit better by attaching this to some designated author that has credibility in this area, but there we go. But what's great about this article is it cuts straight to the chase, giving a very clear home buying timeline. This is exactly what these AI search tools love. Clear information provided by an entity that knows what it's talking about. Now, how you analyze this stuff in the AI SEO toolkit, you go over to the citations section. So here we're looking at better.com and I'm using Search GPT, which is ChatGPT when it uses web search. If we head down here, we can see the cited domains. So these are the websites that are most frequently cited in ChatGPT answers. We can also look at cited pages. So these are the specific pages on those websites that are being cited most often. We can see that the top cited domains are reddit.com for better or for worse, and then better.com, Better's own website. If we click on that, we can see the type of pages that ChatGPT with search is citing in its answers. And no surprise, all of the top cited pages are content pages. They are not product or service pages, and that's something that you'll often notice about these AI search tools, is that they tend to favor content and informative type pages rather than commercially focused ones. So what does this mean for you? Well, of course it means that you need to publish really informative content on your website, but don't just publish generic or even AI generated garbage that has absolutely no added value. The best thing to publish is specific information that is taken from the expertise inside your business, whether this is first-party statistics, first-party experience, case studies, the type of thing that these AI tools can't produce themselves. And of course, you can get some specific recommendations about your content angles in the tool. Now, one of the things you might notice if you spend a lot of time using these tools and analyzing what sort of pages they like to cite is that actually really niche, very specific content can often do really well. That doesn't mean that it's being referenced in loads and loads of different answers, but if there are specific deep dive topics that maybe there's not much other content being produced online about, you can get some really nice traction here. And whilst you might not be targeting huge volumes of AI search traffic with this very specific content, the traffic that you do get from these AI tools can be very high quality, and we see exactly this strategy being recommended here. So that's publishing data and information on your own website. But what about these other third-party domains that aren't owned by your brand? Well, that leads us to AI search strategy number 4, increasing your third-party citations. So this is increasing the number of times that your brand, products or services are recommended and spoken about on other websites. These AI tools frequently pull from third-party websites, and you'll notice that some of them actually favor pulling from third-party websites than your brand's own website, even if the query is about your brand. They would rather go to someone else and look at what other people are saying about you than to look at what you're saying about yourself. The exact playbook that you use here is going to depend on the industry that you're in. For example, we do a lot of digital PR for our clients at Exposure Ninja, where we reach out to publications that are writing articles about certain stories, or we reach out to journalists that we know talk about different topics, or we keep an eye on any journalist news requests where they're looking to speak to a founder or someone at a business about a certain article that they're writing. We'll then respond and get our clients featured in these publications. And that's a great way of appearing on things like recommendation lists or articles about certain topics that our client has a really high expertise in. In other industries, this might be improving the number of affiliate relationships that you have. Now, going back to the better.com example, you'll notice that bankrate.com is one of the top cited domains. Well, part of Bankrate's business model is that it recommends websites like better.com and takes an affiliate commission when someone makes a purchase through it. So if you have a click here, you'll see things like a Better Mortgage Review 2025. So Bankrate has actually produced a page on its website which looks at the better.com mortgage and gives a review of it. So in this case, better.com might want to go out to different mortgage content publishers and make sure it's got affiliate relationships with them, maybe providing some information about the type of articles that are driving the most mortgage affiliates commission, so that these websites can see, well, okay, maybe we need to write an article on the better.com mortgage review and then we can get some commission as well. Other types of third-party content that you might be able to get your brand featured in: Wikipedia, encouraging discussions on Reddit, or publishing information on trade press like Housing Wire here, where Better is updating Housing Wire on all the new features, products and services that it's rolling out. Those articles are then being cited by these AI tools when they're talking about Better. If all of this feels like a lot of work, then unfortunately it is. But this is the future of business, product and service discovery. So this is a new era that marketers need to be focused on. If you want any help with any of this, of course, the team at Exposure Ninja do this all day, every day for our clients. You can request a free digital marketing review from us at exposureninja.com/review, and we'll check out your visibility on search tools to see how you're doing, and we'll map you a prioritized action plan that you can follow over the next 6 to 12 months. Now, this won't just include visibility in AI search, it'll also include visibility on regular search, and also information about things like your conversion rate on your website, which is really important because it's no good just getting traffic to your site. You also need to be turning that traffic into customers as well. This service from Exposure Ninja is completely free, but you do need to apply for this because not everybody is eligible. So head over to exposureninja.com/review to request your free digital marketing review today. Okay, so we've covered 4 strategies so far: focusing on your brand visibility, focusing on visibility of your products and services, increasing the number of first-party citations, i.e. your own website being cited in these answers, and increasing the number of third-party citations. But you want to know the 5th strategy, which is the one that we're deploying most often with our clients and our own businesses? All of the above. The reality is that if you're going to win in AI search, you need to focus on all of these different pillars. Now, the amount of focus that you put into each of these areas is going to depend on where you're strongest and where you're weakest, but also where your competitors are strongest and weakest as well. We're in a strange moment right now where some businesses are focusing really heavily on AI search, but honestly, most companies aren't even thinking about this yet. We regularly give talks to Fortune 500 type businesses whose marketing teams have not really even thought about AI search as a thing, even though they themselves are using ChatGPT all day, every day to find stuff to buy. They haven't really thought about how their brand shows up in these AI tools. And that means we're in a little bit of a land grab moment. So yes, your website needs to be fantastic. It needs to convert the traffic that it's getting because it might be getting less traffic than it used to. Yes, you need to have the SEO basics covered because remember, these AI search tools are running web searches in the background, so you need to be ranking in those web searches if you're going to get a chance of showing up in these AI answers. Then yes, you need to focus on digital PR, making sure you're being featured across all the different websites across the net that are being referenced in these AI search answers. And yes, you need to be making sure that your brand, product and services benefits are super clear and communicated in a very clear and easy to understand way. That helps these AI search tools know when to recommend them and exactly what to say about them. If you want help with this, then of course reach out to the team here at Exposure Ninja. This is what we do. And don't forget that you can take this AI SEO toolkit for a test drive to do a quick audit of your brand. Just head over to exposure.ninja/AI search 2026 to give it a spin. Now, the other thing to mention about all of this AI search stuff is that it can be very volatile. You can see your visibility go up and go down. A lot of companies are therefore focusing on also paid media to make sure they've got a paid backbone to their digital marketing campaign so that they can ride out any peaks and troughs that they notice from the AI search stuff. If you're interested in planning your paid media strategies, you can go and watch this video, which is going to help you identify which PPC strategies to implement for 2026 and beyond. Until next time, see you soon.